Thank you very much. So tonight I'm going to take the first step in projecting next year's school budget. So this is for the 2020. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
should we let them speak? They
Oh,
just came
yeah.
in.
Are you guys here for the high school student rep? Do you want to jump in? Because we just,
Thanksgiving break taking a chunk of time away from us. However, we are currently in the fourth week of the second quarter, and next week on December 15th, we will officially be halfway into the second quarter, and interim reports will be due soon after. Other than that, school sports and winter sports have started, and most of the tryouts have been concluded. Most of the sports teams have had their first games or meets, and we will continue to have the games up until February. That's all from me, and I'll pass it along to Parth.
Thank you, Levin. The musical groups here at Gilderland have recently either performed in their concerts or will be performing in their concerts soon. The bands had their concert last week featuring the 8th grade band, the wind ensemble, the jazz ensemble, and the symphonic band. This week, the orchestra will perform, and the week before holiday break, the choir will perform their music. Also, sophomores took the pre-ACT a couple of weeks ago, and those results are in. The sophomores can go collect their pre-ACT results at the counseling center by simply stating their last name, and they will be given their results. The results include their score, what they got wrong, how they can improve, and what particular career opportunities might look like for them in their future. That's all from us, the Board of Education representatives. I'm Parth Suraja. Thank you for your time.
thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Turn it back over to Andy.
Thank you. So tonight I'm going to talk about the 2024-25 rollover budget. Rollover budget asks, next year, if we do everything that we are doing this year, what is the financial impact of that? Now, when I say everything we're doing this year, I mean everything we're doing this year within the general fund. So as the board is definitely aware, and as the community is likely aware, we have had several years of fiscal federal stimulus programs in the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, and those are expiring at the close of this year. This is creating something that we want to avoid called a fiscal cliff, where if you build up one-time costs to cover recurring costs and then one-time revenue sources end, you end up with a shortfall. So one of the things we'll be doing in the budget process, but not tonight, is looking at programs, services, staff that are in federal grant programs right now, if we wanted to continue them next year, what those costs would be. But tonight is, again, looking at general fund expenses, projecting those, and also trying to project revenues from state aid, local sources. So the big picture of expenses projection for next year, everything staying the same, is a 6.1% increase from $119.77 million to $127.12 million. Few of the significant cost drivers of this, instructional salaries, 29.2%. The vast majority of this are salaries teacher increases. There's a large increase in the teacher's contract for next year, average a little over 6% salary increase. The second largest cost driver are benefits, 45%, and I'll break that down a little more. Health insurance for next year is projected to rise 35%. This is both for our health care and our prescription coverage. For health care, we are part of CASHIC, which is an association of Capital District school districts where we pool our staff together to have a larger pool, which helps protect us against utilization, which is more risky in a smaller pool. But utilization continues to rise significantly. As we talked about in the last spring, there was a few years post-2020 where utilization was very low. So people were not using routine medical services or avoiding medical services because of various reasons. But that sort of has rebounded, and it continues to rise this year. For prescription drugs, we are self-insured. Utilization is quite high, so that's driving this cost increase. There are also projected increases to retirement system contributions, so that's part of what makes up that 45% increase. As I said, we have contractual salary increases. We have a little more debt payments. With the debt payments, last year and this year, we increased our initial payments for the bond for the capital project, to then a few $100,000 to then save a few $1 million over the life of the bond. So this is a substantial investment in savings. We had the room for it in this year's budget, and then we have increased contract transportation costs. Now, projected revenues. We're able to project state aid because now that the state has funded the foundation aid formula, we can look at the updated formula. So for those who aren't familiar, foundation aid formula is a calculation the state makes that asks how much does it cost to educate a student successfully, how much money of that is a school district able to provide locally based on the income and the property value of its residents, and then what are the additional costs of high-need students, so students in economic distress, students with disabilities, English language learners, and that formula comes up to say this is what the state's share of that is. We have an increase in that for next year, which is a large part of the $3.5 million state aid increase. We're also projecting slightly over $2 million property tax increase, but I want to highlight the appropriation of fund balance, which means this is what we would have to draw from our fund balance to cover the shortfall. So there's a $1.75 million gap between our projected expenses if we maintain everything and the projected revenues. So what are the next development steps? First, one big thing that we are waiting to find out is the outcome of the Crossgates tax certiorari case. We had anticipated having a verdict a few months ago and have been waiting to find out when we'll have at least an initial resolution of that. But there has been no outcome yet, so that's one of the big, and there's no way to put that in a timeline because we don't know when it will happen, but that will likely happen this year, this fiscal year, not this calendar year. But in January, the governor will release her executive budget proposal, so we will look at that and analyze what her proposal is for state aid. We will continue to do development work in district, getting community input, stakeholder input. We are engaged in legislative advocacy. And finally, 3 months from today, we will be unveiling the superintendent's draft budget proposal for 2024-25. Questions?
You just remind me what our current balance is in our fund balance?
So our current balance is the 4% maximum.
What's the total?
It would be 4% of $119 million. So I don't have the figure in front of me, but it would be 4% of that figure.
Can you tell me what, you probably can't offhand, what percentage of that balance would be the 1.7 million? It's okay.
So if we say roughly $120 million, 4% of that is 4, and then less than 5 million. So 1.7 is roughly a third, but those are all very rough calculations.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Andy. Next, we have board direction for budget development. Dr. Wells, did you want to talk about this?
Yes, let me just point out that typically at this meeting, we would have gathered from all of you kind of your priorities for the upcoming budget through a thought exchange or another tool. Sometimes at this point of the year, it's very hard to ask you what your priorities are kind of out of thin air without the context of like, what are we working with? So we did not do that for this meeting, but rather wanted to, number one, assure you we will be seeking your priorities for the board, the budget as we develop it. But we're interested in getting some feedback from you about what tool or process might be most helpful to all of you to provide for us that feedback. For example, we are putting together a survey through a thought exchange to gather feedback from stakeholders later in January. And we're doing that because it gives us the opportunity to help our stakeholders kind of weigh priorities rather than just picking topics out of the air, because sometimes we get topics out of the air that have nothing to do with our general fund. So that's one idea that we actually talked a little bit about in the communications committee. So I really just wanted to open it up to the board to say, do you have some thoughts about how you would best like to give us a sense of your priorities before we begin starting to make some decisions and some recommendations about the spending plan for next year?
I mean, there's a couple things. One of the things I know that you've done in the past is ask for, I think, all of the principals at the 7 buildings and kind of what their priorities are after. Oh, go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah, we'll be doing that this month.
Okay, so that's one thing. And then when you said the thought exchange with stakeholders, is that with parents and teachers and, okay.
Yep.
And so you're thinking instead of pulling ideas out of thin air, giving topics within there and then prioritizing what those
Yes.
topics are?
Yep.
Okay.
I think she wants to do the same thing for the 8 of us.
Yes.
Right, like we've done in the past.
Yeah,
or
after getting that.
You want to do it after?
I mean, it would be nice to see what the stakeholders share and then also, what the principals end up inputting. At least for me, that's
Yeah,
what I.
usually we've done it before that, but you're right. It's always hard because you're going, I'm picking what I think, but I'm like one piece of a huge puzzle. And I think that's a good idea to have some
Agree with
idea of,
that.
like what Andrew mentioned about, what's out there. What are some of the things that we're going to lose because of the funding ending? And I'd like to see that so that I can say, oh, wait a minute, we may have to look at this because we're going to lose that, or kind of thing. So I think if we had some of that information, so I agree with what Seema said in terms of getting some information first.
Yeah,
That
I
would be one thing I'd want to know, what's being thought about in terms of loss.
Can you remind me, does that include the priorities also from the athletic director, the music department, or is it just the building principals, or all of your
It's everyone.
departments?
We've
Okay.
just begun what we call stage 2 of the budget development process, where we meet with all the buildings and all of the IAs, and they share with us what they perceive to be the needs for next year. And at our December expanded leadership council meeting, which is next week, we do go around the room and everyone gets to give us their top 2, like if I can have nothing else for next year, this is what would be the top of my list. And we typically would share that list with you. But we've always done that after you have given us
Right.
your priorities. So we could flip that.
It would be
And
hel- I think it would be
then you have
helpful.
something to work with.
I think it would be
Thing up.
helpful.
I agree, going after the stakeholders, but is there a list of the stakeholders? Because I'd be curious to see who makes that list of stakeholders.
Well, it's anyone who is in our community, so we'll reach out to students, we'll reach out to parents through
Okay.
Parent Square, we'll reach out to community members. Typically, we do that through a letter to the editor at the Enterprise, and then we reach out to all staff.
Okay, so the athletic director, I'm just using sports as an example, he will speak with the coaches and get the priorities from his staff, and then we will rely on the information that he provides to us. Is there ever an opportunity for coaches to weigh in? And the same being said for principals? Will teachers have an opportunity?
I don't know that it's a formal opportunity where they hold a meeting per se, but, one of the roles that our leaders play is to pay attention to what's happening in their classrooms and in their buildings and in their athletic programs. So what are the needs? So like since we're talking athletics, we just met with Mr. Austin yesterday, and he had an impressive list of asks. Very impressive list of asks. And the conversation we had was, so given this, which we are not going to be able to do all of, because what you just saw, we're actually $1.7 million to the not so good, before we even add anything, make sure you have a good understanding of what your top priorities are. And that's the truth for 7 buildings, for our IAs in math, science, technology, and the humanities, and arts, and music. Everyone goes through that exercise.
Okay, I guess I'm just thinking, I'm trying to avoid what happened, has it been a year already, when the assistant track coach for track, or what is it, the assistant track coach. We had this group of people that came out and it hadn't been included. I'm just trying to find ways moving forward to avoid things like that. So that's what the basis for my question.
Well, I guess it's great that we're having this conversation because stakeholders should know that if they have concerns, they should bring them to the individuals who bring the recommendations to the process. And I know we've had some of that happen already, not necessarily in athletics, although when I look at the list, I'm pretty sure there was some coaches who weighed in. So yes, people can go to their principals and their IAs and say, we really need fill in the blank. And then it's the job of our team to say, well, what are the priorities that we want to bring forward to the district office team, and then ultimately that I bring to you. Go ahead, Gloria.
Dr. Wiles, I'd like to just build off what Blanca's raising, because I think we can say the opportunity exists, we can say it here, but do people know it? I mean, do they really hear it? So is there a way that maybe the department chair sends out? I'm in the process of putting together the priorities. If there's something you really want me to know before I put this together, stop in and see me. You know, just a general, because it gets lost in the daily.
It does. Even teaching assistants has come up after the fact.
It's just, you're not thinking of that, because that's not your job, but you'd like to be asked
Okay.
in a more formal way, I think.
If you're just asking for general opinions, I mean, I have reservations about such a high degree of fund balance being used.
We
Just-
will not do that.
Just in the rollover budget, but.
It's
yeah.
only there to show you the magnitude of the
Okay.
difference between what it would cost and what our revenues are. There is no way we're using that much money.
The alternate way of presenting it would be to have a negative line.
I see.
It would be the exact same thing. It was just saying,
This is the, yeah.
the thing is you have to have the revenue to account for a rollover budget. So if we spent this much money, we would have to have that money, and that's the only place we would come from.
Okay,
But that
thank
was
you.
not the intention.
Tax tertiary payback, sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to ask the same thing, the tax tertiary piece with Crossgates. I just wanted to ask, I know you said it, so we have no idea when.
We have no idea when. Now, we have money in the budget to cover if we had to bond for that, if we had to
Okay.
borrow it. There are lots of permutations depending on the scale of whatever the verdict is. So there's not one approach we would take, but uncertainty makes it is challenging.
Okay, thank you, that was very helpful.
Great, thank you, Dr. Wiles. Next, we will move on to the consent items. This includes the minutes from the November 7th meeting, the CPSE and CSE recommendations, the personnel action, financials A through E. Can I have a motion to approve the consent items? Gloria, second Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0. Okay. Next, we'll move on to information items. We'll start with curriculum and instruction, and I'll turn it over to Rachel.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few recognitions I'd like to share with you tonight. First, we'd like to recognize Guilderland Central School District music teacher John Fatuzzo, who's being honored by the New York State School Music Association, NYSSMA, with the 2023 Early Career Achievement Educator Award, which recognizes contributions of music educators who have been in the field for between 5 and 9 years. Mr. Fatuzzo is a teacher at both Farnsworth Middle School and Guilderland High School. He's been with the district for 3 years, and in that time has distinguished himself as a leader, a collaborator, and an advocate for students. The NYSSMA Early Career Achievement Educator Award recognizes the contributions of music educators in New York State at the local level, and award recipients demonstrate interest in music education by active involvement in NYSSMA, show effectiveness in teaching young people through music, and possess the ability to inspire positive attitudes among students, the school, and community through a balanced music program. Mr. Fatuzzo will be honored by members of the NYSSMA Executive Council at the May 15th Guilderland Band Festival. Next, the Guilderland High School Chemistry Club won the Best Themed Booth at the New York American Chemical Society National Chemistry Week New York Hall of Science this year. The club competed with other schools and with private industries such as Regeneron and Curia. And the club also received a third place recognition for Best Booth based on participation of of people who attended the event. There is a picture attached in the agenda, as well as a little blurb there for you, and congratulations to the students who were involved in the GHS Chemistry Club and chemistry teacher Alicia McTiernan, who advises the group. Next, a recognition of Tamara Bringleson Eppert, who is a physical education teacher at Guilderland High School. She received an outstanding honor on November 16th. She was recognized as the New York State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Capital Zone's Amazing Person. The Amazing People Awards recognize individuals who have made exceptional contributions to the profession. Tamara is actively involved in the New York State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance's Capital Zone. Along with being a past future professional representative, she is also a mini grant recipient and has presented workshops at conferences and served on the conference committee. Tamara's largest and most fulfilling task with the zone is being the co-chair of the Sandra G. Morley Elementary and Middle School Physical Education Leadership Awards ceremony, which she has participated in since 2015. The event is held annually at HVCC's McDonough Sports Complex and recognizes over 700 of our future leaders from around the capital region. Tamara is honored to be part of such a momentous event, and we want to say congratulations to her for that award. And finally, one that was late breaking and didn't make it onto the agenda, we just found out about it on Friday afternoon. Congratulations to our GHS physical education teacher, Allison Relier, who was named the recipient of the Unified Champion Award by the Special Olympics Committee of New York State. She was presented with the award at a ceremony last Thursday at the Italian American Community Center. Allison's advocacy for all students is unmatched. Under her leadership and guidance, Guilderland Central School District has created a unified program that consists of 2 sections of unified physical education at the high school, 3 unified sports offerings, 1 in each sports season, bocce, bowling, and basketball. Allison teaches both sections of the PE classes and coaches the unified bocce and unified bowling teams. She helped facilitate a unified cheer team that performed at the unified basketball games last spring. There's nobody more deserving of this award than Allison. Congratulations, and thanks for all you do for our students.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Congratulations all around. Next, we'll go on to Superintendent Information. Dr. Wiles?
Thank you. I'm going to start with a public service announcement that is not on the agenda. I wanted to let folks know that NYSA is sponsoring a program this Saturday, December 9th, called Reading Opens the World event, where students and teachers from our school community can go and collect as many free books as they would like. It is at Farnsworth Middle School. I believe it starts at
9 to
9
11?
o'clock, 9 to, no, it's
No,
all
9
day.
to 1, I'm sorry.
9 to 1.
9 to 1. And we're trying to get word out because it's a great opportunity. It's been a great way to partner with our friends over at NYSET. And Emily Mino and her team have been doing a ton of work to make it a successful event. We've got students who are playing in musical ensembles to provide entertainment, and it should just be a great, great experience. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew about that. My second item is also good news. We were recently notified that Linwood Elementary School has been recognized by the Positivity Project. Specifically, they were awarded the Green Shield status for the 22-23 school year, and it's the Green Shield because if you look at Positivity Project logo, it is a green shield. And the website says the Green Shield schools are recognized for exemplifying character and relationship-driven systems among staff, students, and families to cultivate lifelong learning and a positive school culture. The application process was driven by 6 rigorous categories, including staff implementation, student leadership, family engagement, professional learning, positive climate, and the P2 movement. If you'd like to read more about the Linwood Elementary School receiving this award, the webpage link is included in the agenda. Congratulations, Linwood. They're only one of 2 schools in New York State to be recognized, so this is quite an accomplishment. So we're really proud of their work. Next, I have an update on the Cobblestone Schoolhouse. And in doing the update, I'd like to go back in history a little bit. This has been a topic we've been talking about here in Guilderland for many, many years, certainly all the years that I've been here. But in recent years, we have really come to the conclusion that owning a historic building is not necessarily what we're in the work, that's not necessarily the essence of our work. This is a building that has lots of historical meaning and history, but it also has some need for repair and upkeep and so on. So for the past several years, we have been trying to work through the legal clearing of the title of the property. I won't go into all of those details, but that took years and years in order to do. Once we essentially cleared the title on the Cobblestone Schoolhouse, we had a conversation about what should be next for the property. And so in February of 2022, so now almost 2 years ago, the board decided that it would be in the best interest of the school district to sell and/or auction the property to another entity. This past October, we went ahead and entered into a contract with Auctions International, which was going to be the platform through which we transferred the property to another owner. That auction was supposed to start last Friday, but we paused on that action, and largely in response to an email that we received from Assembly Member Pat Fahey, who represents the Guilderland Central School District, who voiced some interest in the importance of making sure that that property remains in the public domain. So we have postponed any further action to auction the property in light of her comment to us that the town of Guilderland has some interest in taking over the property or owning the property for other purposes. So given that, we would like to continue to pause the auction for a bit and give the town an opportunity to talk with us about their interest in the property. We're very interested in hearing from them to see what they may want to do in terms of making some kind of an agreement or transfer of property or sale, however it pans out, with us. So I will pause there and see if there are comments or questions or thoughts.
Honestly, I think you did a good job of explaining the years of work that's been into this and the current status. Thanks.
I just want to add, so I know that we've all kind of heard that there's some interest unofficially and kind of through hearsay, but we've never, I think from, giving this opportunity to the town to make an offer to the school district and doing that, we're obviously pushing off the auction. And so I don't think we want to do that forever. So
Right.
having them make this offer, I think in the next month would be reasonable.
Yes, because if there are a number of steps. If the town were to make an offer and was interested in the property, that transfer or sale would happen, but only subject to voter approval on our May ballot. So if that's not going to happen, then we need to go down the road of the auction so that we can indeed have someone else have the honor of owning that piece of property.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we add that, so starting the process of the auction cost a little bit, but then there was also some, there was finances put into the Cobblestone, I don't remember what year it was, to keep it, from falling it apart.
Yes.
So, just to make that note that it's not, that there's not been, no resources put towards the Cobblestone.
If we're, just as the history part of this, it was also a difficult budget year. I think it was the 2016-17 budget year. We needed to replace the floor of the Cobblestone Schoolhouse. And it was a considerable expense. And I can remember sitting at this table weighing, how do we afford that while we're trying to decide how to provide for our students as well. Ultimately, we spent $35,000 to replace the floor in the Cobblestone Schoolhouse. But we can't, continue to invest in that building at that level without any kind of financial assistance. And honestly, it is not the mission of a school district to do historical preservation.
Agreed.
We are thinking about the future, which will lead to my next item.
And I think we're looking at a really tough budget year again.
Yes.
And so we need to think strongly about our fiduciary responsibility to the district.
100%.
Sounds good.
Said.
All right, so we'll go from the past to the future. So literally, I do want to launch a conversation about what does it mean for our students to be ready for their future. So what I'm going to do is spend a few minutes today with I'm calling it a proposed blueprint for our school district to think about that very question. So I'm going to remind everyone what our mission is. It's to inspire all students to be active lifelong learners, able to achieve at their highest potential in a demanding and ever-changing global community. And we always zero in on this idea of this is all students. And I like to say often it's each and every student. And we embody a lot of this part of our mission in our work around diversity, equity, and inclusion and how we think about each and every student. In our vision, we provide a safe and welcoming environment where we work together to pursue academic excellence and personal growth. And we try to provide a rich and rigorous education for all learners so that upon graduation, they're ready for, you got it, their future. And we know, after all we've been through in recent years with the pandemic and so many changes to the way our world operates, that we have to have a conversation about how we prepare our children in order to do that. So many of you have probably heard me condense all of those wordsmithed comments down to basically 4 words. Our work here is for all kids, and by that I mean each and every, to be future ready. But really, what do we mean by that? So I think it's time for us to, in earnest, begin that conversation about what we mean by those words. So I'm going to just remind everyone about some work the board has been doing over the last several years to set priority areas by establishing what we call SMART goals. And there's really been 4 priority areas that we've been talking about starting in 2020, and with an eye toward 2025 is the period of time when we're focusing on these. You know, chief among them is to make sure we're closing achievement gaps or opportunity gaps among our students so that all are in a place where they can reach their potential. We've had a real concerted effort on the whole child, and not just thinking about academics, but the social and emotional well-being of each and every child. That's one of the reasons why we launched the Positivity Project, for example. And then we've spent a lot of time focusing on the diversity of our school population and how we make our diverse members of our school community feel like they belong, that they're affirmed, that they are part of our highest concern for making sure students are well served. And then lastly, we talk a lot about facilities. And, you know, we've just finished a capital project from 2019. We're wrapping up another one in 2021. You see the fruits of that if you drive around campus with our learning pavilions and our turf field and our you know, very new science labs and many more. But it's getting to be time for us to think about that again. So if we are thinking about what teaching and learning needs to look like to prepare our students for the future, what does the environment we provide for our students have to look like in order to prepare them to do that? And that's what we're going to focus on a little bit here this morning. So in that priority area of facilities, we basically had 2 big goals. One was around maintaining and supporting technology, including cybersecurity. When this goal was written, we were at the height of the pandemic, and technology was our only way to do business, essentially. And we also had a very challenging episode during that time around cybersecurity that put this top of mind where it continues to be. But we also talked about in that board document the need to develop a shared vision for future-ready for facilities, wanting to engage our community so that the community tells us what they believe future-ready means. And what's important to us is that in that way. We wanted to reflect on our time during the pandemic, although we all want to try to forget it. But what does it mean for us as we go forward? And we want to take an opportunity to visit other schools and see what's out there in terms of facilities for supporting student learning. So here's what I would like to propose as a plan to explore the question about future ready. In a couple terms, one around our educational programming, but also in terms of the space in which we do that learning, so our facilities as well. So I am proposing tonight that we begin very soon to establish what I'm calling a Future Ready Task Force. And then in a minute, I'll talk about what its purpose will be, what are its possible activities, who would be on it, and what is the timeline. So what I'm proposing is a task force whose purpose is to review best practices, to gather input from our community, and by community I mean all of our stakeholders, to recommend some priorities that will ensure our students, our graduates, are prepared for what greets them beyond high school. The task force will focus on educational programming priorities, as well as implications for our facilities. Here are some possible activities. I'm envisioning a group that's 35 or 40 people large. So with a group that large, I would recommend creating some subgroups to explore different elements of the question. So what are the technology pieces we should be thinking about? Are there career and technical education questions we should be asking? Music, we know music is a big priority in terms of our facilities. What should we be exploring about those aspects of our program? And then just our classroom environments. And those are just a sample of what possible subcommittees could be. And then I would envision the task force meeting in a large group and also subgroups, utilizing technology whenever possible to have those meetings happen virtually, to share research, to plan, to help inform where we want to go next. I can see the task force planning and implementing community engagement activities, surveys, thought exchanges, forums, focus groups. We're open to ideas. I can envision task force members taking field trips to neighboring school districts for ideas and inspiration, and then other things as well that may become obvious needs. But ultimately, we would like them to prepare a report of recommendations to the District Facilities Committee, which would be formed next fall, and to the Board of Education. And on that group, we want to be as inclusive as possible, including parents of our students from middle and high school, Guilderland community members, and then all of our employee groups, so teachers, related service providers, support staff, both instructional and non-instructional, administrators, board members, and others if you can think of those who might also want to have a role on this. And then to select these individuals, we've created task forces on numerous occasions, and we would do district outreach and recruitment through Parent Square, emails to our school-based constituents, letter to the editor of the Altamont Enterprise. Tonight's presentation is an open invitation for people who are interested. And then we would ask individuals to send a brief letter of interest to me, provide this email, of course, for doing that. It doesn't have to be a full resume, but I'm interested in being a part of this conversation and I'd like to help. And then we would select, depending on the number of responses. If we have 300, we're going to have to whittle it down. If we have 35 or 40 or even 50, I would say all are welcome. And then we would like to formally appoint the members of this group when we meet again in January. So this would move quickly if everyone is feeling like this is the good direction to take. And then the timeline, we're at the first bullet right now to present this proposed plan and get some feedback. and then get to work to recruit members to participate in this, to start to be appointed in early January, and then begin meeting in late January, February, March, April, May, to meet, plan, discuss, problem solve, make road trip visits, do some community engagement, March through May, give or take. June and July, provide a draft preliminary recommendation to our Facilities Committee, Board of Ed, maybe fine-tune over the summer, with the hope of having some more formalized recommendations to our Facilities Committee in the early fall. The ultimate goal, ambitious but ultimate here, is a potential capital project referendum in May of 2025. So there are some things that we'll have to be thinking about. Infrastructure needs for zero emissions transportation, needs identified in the building condition survey, which we do every 5 years. We've already had some needs identified for programs. Our board took a little field trip to our music facilities here in the high school back in August. Timing of the district's debt schedule in 2025 and beyond. Status of the SCD Blue Ribbon Panel recommendations for public schools, which I think are also a lens into what it means to be future ready, and there may be others as well. So lastly, this past Saturday, our board took a field trip to Queensbury, and I took some photos, and we'll just give everyone a bit of a glance into this. And you might ask, why Queensbury? Queensbury's physical facilities started out not unlike ours. They're not brand new. They've been around for a while. And over the last several years, a dozen years, they have made it a priority to transform their learning spaces. So let me just hit a couple highlights. This is a gathering space that was added onto their high school. It's where their Board of Education meets, but it's also a room where the community gathers often for various meetings. It opens right out into the front of the school. You can see some of our board members, and one of the 3 projection sites they have in that room. This is an art room. You can see lots of space. I have a few pictures with some music facilities. This is the band room, I believe, or maybe it's the orchestra room. I know I have here the storage, the climate-controlled storage place for their stringed instruments. And I took a quick picture of a practice room. These are small rooms that are soundproof, where students can go into, as we used to say in the music world, woodshed. It's when you practice a lot and a lot and a lot. This is a photo of the auditorium stage. And here are our board members in the band rehearsal room, bright and early on a Saturday morning. This is a photo of the weight room at the high school. This is a photo of one of the workshops. You can see they have boards for students to learn electrical work. And this, I had to ask, what is this? It is it's the place where all the sawdust goes from the technology lab. And it's placed on a heated pad right outside of the technology room, where students are able to actually go outside and build things all year round. They spend a lot of time, I didn't include the picture, they build sheds for various storage things and put them all over the campus, so students have real work, hands-on opportunities. These 2 shots are of the cafeteria. You can see the lower one is the seating arrangements, and up in the left corner they have a little cafe, coffee station bar. And this is one of the libraries. I shared this picture for a couple things. You can see in the middle, there's the furniture down the middle is a big part of the work they've been doing in Queensbury. They have looked at how students learn, how they how teaching and learning happens best in collaborative kinds of settings, and they've made a concerted effort to purchase a lot of furniture that makes that kind of collaborative work possible. And we saw it really at the high school, the middle school, and also the elementaries. And this is another shot of the library. And this is the front foyer of the high school, which is a display area. And I think that's all I put. So I'll take your questions and your comments and thoughts. Go ahead, Kelly.
The Queensberry thing, but is that, how large is their district? And is there multiple schools?
It's
elementary
around 3,500 students. They have a high school, a middle school, K-3 building, and a 4-5 building, all on one campus.
They do this type of work to all of the buildings, or was that the capstone, just one school?
They've been working on this for years. So they started in the high school. They did some work in the classrooms at the middle school. It's a very old building in the middle school. And then right now in the K-3 building, doing some work to switch out furniture, lighten and brighten the place, and so on.
Majority of the district is heading towards something like that over
Yes,
a long
it's
year
a
plan.
long journey.
Yeah. But that's just not one building and the rest are old. It seems like they've been picking at it for a long time.
I think the high school was all new, but the elementary school, from what I understand, they were changing from classrooms first. And the building was still an older building, but they were making changes, and I think he called it like a pilot classroom.
Yes, yes.
So, but the high school was completely,
But the building is originally old, the high school building, yes. So they just reimagined space and
Decluttered.
decluttered.
oh yeah.
But it's not, they did not build a new high school.
No,
I mean, it doesn't look old at all.
No, it looks,
not at all.
I'll throw Blanc under the bus. She sent me a couple pictures of pre-K buildings. Did they build the buildings like that, or was that like a revamp of?
Is their old district.
Curious.
it was their district, well, it's actually the
Was their
district.
old district?
And then, and don't even, we can't do that.
I know. I know. It was just the thing. I'm
But
just
they did
curious
have
if they built-
standalone buildings for pre-K, which I think were, I think they've had pre-K funding for many, many years.
There was something before that, so they're redoing buildings and reimagine the spaces.
Yes.
I like that they had I know the wood shop, but they also had the cafeteria space with the outdoor seating as well.
Yes.
That's nice.
To have, I know we have the pavilions, but to have some spaces where outdoors are considered. But I think this is perfect timing in terms of having this task force be put together, and, because I think this field trip was supposed to be in 2020, and then we kind of obviously couldn't do that, and to get back on track, it does seem like a pretty kind of fast timeline to get on May 2025, but I think facilities have been on the goals for a while, and none of that has been really looked at besides the turf and now maybe the music.
Well, we've done a ton of infrastructure kinds of things, so boilers and univentilators and plumbing, and, I mean, so we've taken, a lot of the investments have been the kind you can't really see. It's time to make more visible changes to impact the teaching and learning environment.
Question about the timeline. Kind of heard a little bit about, is there an upcoming change or amendment not for the aid for the capital projects, that we might be getting more aid from the state for a limited amount of time? Have you heard anything like this?
I have not.
Something that just got put on my radar that I might be misunderstanding, but
No, but I think,
I heard there was something coming that has a limited amount of time that had to do with capital projects. I want to dig more deeper and find out what it is
Sure.
and see if we could dig into that.
well, we asked the Queensbury superintendent how they were able to finance that, and the aid that they get back was more than what we do in our district, but I know that, without going to the details, talking to some other people about different ways of, because it sounds like the way that their finances are structured, they are allowed to do capital projects like every budget cycle, which
We could.
Just in general, I'm connecting with their business official to review all of the elements of how they've gone about it.
That's great.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
I just had a comment. I really enjoyed the visit to Queensbury, and what I thought was really interesting about it was every detail of the project. The vision of making it better for the students was encompassed in every single detail. So lunchroom tables were circular and not rectangular, so kids wouldn't feel excluded. Seats in the elementary school were like traditional seats, but also some like balanced seats where kids could like wiggle and feel comfortable, you know, kind of fidgeting a little bit. The windows, he really emphasized that the windows were floor to ceiling because natural light is activating and makes people feel fresh when they go into a building. And so I think like a task force idea is a great one because it sort of would encompass all of those little details in the whole picture.
Yes.
So I think it would be great.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. It was, I think the biggest part of that trip that I took away was just thinking how excited those students must be going into that building, because most kids, you think, oh, okay, it's another day. And you walk around, and it was really amazing that they had, like, they would label the areas, and they were color-coded, so they would have, like, I think it was innovation, and then they would have performance, I think it was, but it was just, it was exciting. Like, we couldn't wait to go to the next room to see what it was, because it just kept getting better and better, and it was almost overwhelming thinking of how exciting the possibilities for those students are.
Go ahead, Blanca.
I also enjoyed the trip. I found it inspiring. I felt like it took away some important ideas. But I also couldn't help but feel like it would have benefited, you know, maybe Bob Winans, and Andy, and even Dave Austin. So I saw here on the task force, you do intend to host field trips for folks on the task force?
And it may be not just Queensbury, but, you know, the other school districts have done renovations in certain areas of their programming that would also be worthwhile for a visit. So we've done, you know, various, when the last facilities committee met, they also had subcommittees who went out and did field trips. But the last facilities committee really was focused on facilities more, and not the teaching and learning part. And we're actually talking about two committees here. This first one is the one that's going to think about the teaching and learning part, and then what are the implications for the facilities committee to take into consideration. I would like to suggest that some of the people who serve on this committee that I'm talking about also join the more nuts and bolts facility committee that is going to be created, you know, down the road. So, I mean, the timeline is really aggressive, and, you know, it may or may not be able to hit that, but I think if we push, it's better than taking too much time.
Are you going to put out, Marie, on, you said an email or Parent Square, so, you know, obviously people who are not watching the meeting, they can already start reaching out to show interest?
Yes, the goal is to get that out really soon. All right, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to board president information. I just have a set of policies here, A through L, that you could look through, and they'll be up, I think, next time for action. And then we'll move on to action items. School business, I'll turn over to Andy.
Thank you very much. My first action item is a college and the high school agreement with Hudson Valley Community College, which makes college-level courses available to high school students for the 2023-24 school year.
Can I have a motion to accept the college and the high school agreement? Blanca, second. Nate, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is a professional services agreement. Under this agreement, the Parsons Child and Family Center's Sidney Albert Training and Research Institute will provide district staff with professional development on addressing anxiety, depression, and trauma.
Can I have a motion to approve the service agreement with Parsons? Kim, second. Katie, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. The next one is a resolution to accept the delinquent tax rolls and the composite tax collection report. For the school district, if we do not collect taxes, the county is responsible for collecting delinquent taxes, and then makes us whole.
Can I have a motion to accept the resolution, resolution to accept the delinquent tax rolls? Rebecca, second. Kelly, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
I'm just going to note now that I need you all to sign this after, so don't go anywhere. You have to sign this after the meeting.
Thank you.
My next item is a service agreement with the LaSalle School. LaSalle School provides day education for adolescent males ages 12 to 18 who are in grades 6 to 12, who are experiencing significant difficulties in their home school or community.
Can I have a motion to accept the service agreement with LaSalle School? Gloria, second. Kelly, any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is an internship agreement with SUNY New Paltz to provide an internship and practicum experience for a college student.
Can I have a motion to accept the internship agreement with SUNY New Paltz? Rebecca, second. Nate, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My next item is a updated resolution for the NYSMIC bid. There was a typo in the resolution the board adopted last meeting. So this is for the NYSMIC natural gas bid, clarifying the cap for natural gas costs.
Can I have a motion to approve the NYSMIC corrected resolution? Nate, second. Blanca, any questions or comments? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. The next item is a declaration of surplus obsolete property, which allows us to then dispose of it.
Can I have a motion to approve the surplus obsolete property? Kelly, second. Kim, any comments or questions? I just had a question, but is this the list where we could put these things up on the auctions international? Is that also?
There are various ways of disposing of surplus obsolete property, which can include auctions international, which can include various bids or recycling, depending on, we have the whole spectrum.
Okay. Thanks. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. The next item is a shared services agreement. Last year, we had a student who was in need of a specialized program that could meet language and social emotional needs that we could not offer, so we made an agreement with Chalmont, a neighboring school district. We wanted to continue that agreement for this year.
Can I have a motion to approve the shared services agreement with Chalmont? Gloria, second. Nate, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Thank you.
Passes 9-0.
Sorry. The next item is budget transfer to cover software purchases.
Can I have a motion to approve the general fund transfers? Judy, second. Gloria, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
Thank you. My final item are 2 monetary donations for Farnsworth Middle School. Stewart's Shop donated $350 to support the backpack program, and Hannaford Supermarket donated $60 from the Hannaford Bloomin' for Good program. The money was raised from the purchase of designated flower bouquets in the month of July. $1 was donated for every Bloomin' for Good bouquet that was purchased.
Can I have a motion to accept the donations from Stewart's and from Hannaford? Blanca, second. Rebecca, any comments or questions? Just thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Passes 9-0. Great, thank you, Andy. Next, we'll move on to superintendent action. Dr. Wiles?
Okay, thank you. My first item is a request to approve 2 co-curricular clubs for Farnsworth Middle School. We have a gaming club and a FMS robotics club.
Can I have a motion to approve the club approvals, both gaming and the robotics? Gloria, second. Kim, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
My next item is a request for approval for an application for a grant, and the resolution reads, resolve that the Board of Education of the Guilderland Central School District authorizes Alicia Malanga, an enrichment teacher at Farnsworth Middle School, to apply for a Grow With Us grant through New York State Agriculture in the Classroom. Mrs. Malanga would be applying for the grant to be used for tower gardens to use in the enrichment program. The total value of the towers is $1,629. As part of the grant requirement, Mrs. Malonga will be providing New York State Agriculture in the Classroom yearly updates on how this tower system is being used if the grant is awarded. More information is included in a link you have there.
Great, thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the grant application? Katie, second. Gloria. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
My next item is a resolution to accept the resignation and settlement agreement. And the resolution reads, "It is hereby resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the resignation of Jason Kenyon, effective November 30th, 2023, is hereby accepted in the agreement between Mr. Kenyon and the Guilderland Central School District dated November 22nd, 2023, is approved."
Can I have a motion to accept the resolution for resignation and settlement? Blanca, second. Kelly, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0.
And my last item is a resolution to approve annual salaries, and that resolution reads, "It is hereby resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the following employees shall have annual salaries as set forth on the attached chart, effective July 1st of each year mentioned. The increase for the 2023-2024 school year is retroactive to July 1, 2023.
Can I have a motion to accept the approval of annual salaries? Gloria, second. Judy, any comments or questions? All in favor? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Dr. Wiles. Next, we'll move on to board committee reports. We'll start with audit. That's Rebecca.
Yeah, we haven't met since the last meeting and we have nothing scheduled.
Thank you. Next is business practices. I think that's Judy.
Yeah, we have not met, and we don't have a meeting scheduled.
Next is communications. Katie.
We continue to review a side-by-side view of the budget development timeline along with our communication timeline. We are looking at ways to communicate to the community the impact of the sunsetting of federal COVID funds and to highlight the ways the district prioritized putting recurring costs in the general operating budget whenever possible. We also were looking at ways to help get community engagement. So we will be reviewing the thought exchange that was already mentioned earlier in our meeting. And we had started to look over the business practices recommendation for a committee that we heard also in a presentation tonight. And we will be meeting again on the 21st at 3:30.
Thank you, Katie. Next, DEI committee.
I was doing the readout for that. I wasn't prepared.
Is that you, Kelly?
It wasn't me.
Okay.
But
So I was at the band concert. I know, Blanca, you were also. I don't, were you at the
Jesus,
meeting, Kelly?
I just didn't prepare.
That's
the
okay.
readout, so.
I know that there's a meeting coming up at the is it next week or 2 weeks from now?
Sorry.
Katie was there.
Oh, Katie, were you there?
I also signed on late, sorry.
I did not prepare my notes, but I could
That's
go
okay.
back to.
I can jump in with a couple highlights. So we had committee reports from each of the 4 standing committees. I'm probably not going to remember what each of the 4 did, but I know the engagement committee talked more about their fireside chats and how to increase participation in the fireside chats. The most recent one was on a cold and snowy November night and was not particularly well attended, but there was one very engaged parent who found an opportunity to have a very good conversation with the folks there. Communications committee is working on putting together some videos that capture DEI in action around the district, and our new communications videographer is kind of capturing that as she goes, so we'll be putting that together. Research is still looking at data being gathered through the School Psychologists Association around what other school districts are doing relative to DEI and student social emotional wellness. And Student Voice is talking about how our current students can kind of bring along the next generation of students so that there is like a legacy. And you know, Derek and Leah, between the two of them, are working with all four of those committees to help keep everyone on track. Derek talked about projects that he and Leah are doing around the district, workshops and activities and assistance with our equity action plans. And then we had a discussion. Our learning topics were around implicit bias and blind spots around bias, and it was a video-based topic. And then we had a great discussion. So it was a very good meeting. Unfortunately, it was the same night as that wonderful high school concert that our students told us about. So anyway, it was a good meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Wiles, that was great on the spot.
I can't believe I remembered that much. Thank you for
A
being.
week ago, I felt like it was like a month ago, so I'm
I
like,
know.
oh, wait, I need to review the
Thank
minutes.
you.
would've
I
been
just
able
wanted to add one more thing. We also designated certain days of the month to be.
Yes.
Right? So I don't know if you want to mention that.
I cannot remember all of these, so I won't say it, but we had some it's really tough to schedule things, as you know. So in order to eliminate the scheduling difficulties, each of the 4 subcommittees now has a designated night. So one is the first Wednesday, one is the second Thursday, and I don't know exactly which they are at this point, but they will be the same all year long. And that way, when we have to find time for the steering committee to meet or something else, we can stay away from those. Thank you for that.
Great, thank you, Dr. Wiles. And last, policy, Nate?
Yeah, we met back on November 8th. You saw a number of the policies that were up for consideration for review tonight that we discussed that night. We also had Jeff Honeywell was there, district council, to talk about the potential creation of a social media policy for staff, potentially students. But Jeff Honeywell is going to undertake that effort on the district's behalf, and hopefully we'll hear about it soon. And we have a meeting scheduled for next week, the 13th.
It's Wednesday, yep. Okay, thank you. Next, we have public comment. Linda, is there anybody else signed up? Or anybody? No, thank you. And last, board issues, ideas, and sharing. Okay. Oh, Gloria?
I'll just mention, I got to go to the Linwood concert, and it was awesome. It was really fun. I hadn't been to an elementary one in a while since my kids were in there, and it was really a lot of fun. They were great. The kids were wonderful. It was last night. But I'm sure everybody's been to different concerts, so
Yeah,
we're
it's
all enjoying the
concert
season.
Lots of concerts coming up. Right, oh, Blanca?
Yep, I just wanted to thank the PTA and Mike Piscatelli for the practice ACT exam. It's very important and useful information for our students as they think about college.
Great, any other issues, ideas, and sharing? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Kelly, second, Katie. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 9-0. Thanks, everybody.